Hello everybody, welcome to my video. So today I'm asking the question, what is the next chapter in your life? So this can be a general reading, or you can think specifically of one area of your life if you're only concerned about your love life, your career, or whatever. Just make sure you have it clear in your mind before you ask yourself the question, what is the next chapter in your life? So I've got for option number 1, 4 of coins, option number 2, the Chariot, and option number 3, the moon. Make sure you clear your mind, take a few deep breaths and get nicely relaxed before you make your choice. And when you have made your choice, trust your instincts, don't doubt yourself, and certainly don't overthink it. If you want a bit more time to do that, then please press pause because I'm now moving on to the readings. Okay, those of you that chose option number 1, the 4 of coins, that's the fisherman and his wife. This is your reading. These cards are a deck that I don't use very often because they're a favourite and I actually just don't want the cards to get ruined and scuffed. So I don't use them that often, but they are the Fairy Tale Tarot by Karen Mahoney. And we'll be looking at that card afterwards and looking at the story associated with it once we know what the rest of your cards say, and we can see how that relates to the rest of the reading. So let's start off. We have Queen of Summer, loving, comforting, emotional, intuitive. Listen to your heart, intuitive insights you can trust, taking care of others, perhaps too much. The World, a brilliant success, the freedom to go in any direction, a journey that is now complete. 7 of Winter, there is a better choice, not seeing things clearly, running away from the truth. I don't know how all these are going to fit on, so Knight of Cups, 5 of Pentacles, Page of Pentacles, let's put that there. 2 of Cups, Queen of Cups again, so you've got the Queen of Cups twice, and then the 10 of Pentacles. Okay, so I think to me the next chapter in your life is partly I don't like splitting the cards when they're from the same deck, so I'm going to put that there. You're finishing a cycle. I mean, that's obvious by the world. And I think it's a cycle that's left you somewhat alone, somewhat impoverished. You might have had financial troubles, been having issues with your love life, or at least feeling a bit isolated socially, romantically, financially. And I think that's finished. I think that's completed. But I think that you're struggling either with the knowledge or you're not being quite aware that you actually are finished there. This thing that's been leaving you a bit isolated, it's actually over. But you're struggling to see that. I don't think you can see that, or you're struggling with the aftermath of it. But it's time now for you to let that go and move on to something else. I do feel if you've been single for quite some time, it's time for you now to open up and to meet someone. If you haven't already, the next chapter in your story is a love story. It's some sort of love. It could be with another person. It could be something that you love, like a vocation, a career, or just something that's spiritually rewarding. It could be a pet. It could be a hobby, it could be anything. It could be a friend rather than a love interest. It could be a child. And it could be literally anything, a great working relationship. You're meant to combine with something else rather than being on your own. For some of you, I am leaning towards a romance or a creative endeavour. I feel that you're going to be given the opportunity, like somebody's going to ask you out, or somebody's going to say, I've seen your work, why don't we work together? Let's work in union. And I think it's going to allow you to soften up emotionally Because I do feel that for some of you, you've been a bit, not hard. I do feel isolation more than anything else. I think you've kept yourself to yourself. I think you've been a bit more introverted and not socialised enough. You're coming out of that now. And I think for all that you've had poverty, or you might have some poverty ahead of you, ultimately you will be financially well off. I think you will have everything that you need in order to survive and thrive, to put money aside for the future. I do think that at the moment, it's not that you're on the wrong path. I think you're being guided on the right path, but I think you can't see that there's a really great option in front of you. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're blocking yourself. Some of you are, but for others of you, it could be that the time is not right. Because I do get this feeling that there's a bit of residual energy here, a bit of something left to work on before you can completely close the chapter and finish off the journey that is now complete. It is completed, but there's something left. And until you start to see things clearly and stop running away from the truth, you're not going to be able to actually start the new chapter. You're not going to be able to turn the page and start moving on to chapter 2. Because this person's here for you. I really think that either they are loving, comforting, emotional, intuitive, or that you have these qualities and you've not been able to explore them fully recently, and you're really being given the opportunity to do so. You're being given the opportunity to learn. Now that could be in a formal setting, that maybe some of you are of educational age, or would like to go back to school or take on evening classes or something, but it can just be lessons in life. It can be learning a tangible skill, like a craft, or it could be just that you learn through living and it will bear fruit in the future. You just learn how to be a grown-up. It really doesn't have to be a formal setting where you come back with a qualification. It's the lessons in life, the university of life. So yeah, I think there might be moments where you're struggling a bit, feeling a bit isolated, but I feel that's just the end of the journey, the residual journey, and really what you're moving on to is something that's rewarding to you. I think you're actually heading towards where you were always meant to be. For some of you. Some of you haven't been able to get onto this path, but now that you can, and this is where you're meant to be. I think you've completed a life lesson, and it's been quite a hard one for you. This is becoming clear to me, and it has coloured how I've interpreted the cards, because I'm familiar with these, but what I'm going to do is read it out from the book, so that you've got the story in completion, and then I will discuss how it fits in with your reading, with the fact that you're going to be opening up emotionally. Find the page. I'll have a little sip. Okay. So the Four of Coins, the fisherman and his wife, Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm, Household Tales. Isn't that weird how Wilhelm made me say Grimm differently? So anyway, the Grimm brothers. There was once a fisherman who was so poor that he lived with his wife in a pigsty. One day he pulled up a great fish and, delighted, was about to kill it, when it screamed out that it was actually an enchanted prince and had the power to grant a wish if he was set free. The fisherman freed the fish and went home, asking for nothing, but his wife told him to return and to ask the fish prince to give them a cottage. He did so, and the wish was instantly granted. But a week later, the wife decided that she now wanted a stone castle instead of the sweet little cottage, and sent her husband back to the fish. Again, the wish was graciously granted. This went on and as the wife began to demand more and better things at an increasingly rapid pace. Eventually, she asked first to be emperor, and then, not content even with this, almost at once said she wanted to be made pope. Even these outrageous wishes were granted, although the fisherman was quite scared to ask for them, and noticed that the fish was beginning to become angry. Finally, even being pope wasn't good enough for the fisherman's wife, and she decided that she had to be God, Lord of the sun and the moon. This time the fisherman was really frightened and reluctant to go on to the fish, but his wife would not take no for an answer. And when the poor man went to find the fish, he found that an angry storm was raging over the sea. Quaking, the man gave his wife's outrageous request, and the fish told him simply that he should now go back home to his pigsty. And sure enough, the fisherman returned home to find all the grandeur gone, and his wife sitting in the pigsty again, and there, thanks to her greed, they remained for the rest of their days. So this is obviously a story about asking for a lot and not being grateful, but it's also a story about the fisherman giving too much, or, complying with his wife's desires too much. He knew that it wasn't a good idea to ask for so much from the magical princely fish, but he would yet go back again and again and ask for more. The fisherman's wife, just couldn't be content with what she'd got. How I feel this fits in with you is, on one side, you may be the fisherman who asks for something, is granted the wish, and is very satisfied with it. You're grateful, you're content. The little cottage and the ability to fish would have been enough. Remember at the beginning of the story, the fisherman was happy by his own hard work to go out and catch a fish. He was delighted with the fish. It was his wife, who was staying at home in the pigsty, that continually wanted asking more and more and more. So I feel that for some of you, you're the fisherman. For others of you, you might be a bit more the fisherman's wife. Maybe you were somebody that wanted all the goods without putting in the effort to acquire them, that you didn't express your gratitude for the things that you have got. It's about valuing the things that you do have, as well as valuing the things that will come your way. So what I feel that's happened is not so much that you've been lacking in gratitude. I think that somewhere along the lines, maybe someone else has lacked gratitude for what you've done for them, and now the message is for you to do a bit more for yourself. Maybe you've been complying with other people's wishes a bit too much and not complying with your own desires for your own life. It's important that you do support others and that you provide where you need to provide, but also not to the extent that you allow yourself to be exploited. You see, the princely fish would grant so many wishes happily in exchange for not being killed and eaten. But when it came to it, too much was being asked and the situation exploded. So I feel that for a lot of you, you've probably been in a situation where it's reached its limits and it's now time to leave it and cut your losses, no matter what the investment was in it, what you expected to get back from it, and to just perhaps walk away. There's also obviously a message, because it's the Four of Coins. You've got to remember not to cling on to things too tightly, even though you don't need them. I mean, the fisherman's wife would have been, being in the cottage was better. Even if she'd had the small stone manor, that would have been better for her. Her husband could have still kept her well fed. The fishes, they would have had a roof over that was safe from the elements. So be grateful for what you've got, but don't cling too tightly to the things that you don't really need, the gems and so on and so forth. And to remember to be open. So I feel that some of you, like I said before, I got this feeling that you're clinging to the old cycle, whereas you need to let go and embrace the new cycle. So you've got to think and meditate and look into yourself, look deep as to what it is that you're clinging to that no longer serves you. And it doesn't have to be anything big. It can be something small, a little habit that you have that brings you some enjoyment but perhaps doesn't satisfy you in the way that it used to, and that your time might be best spent getting rid of this habit or spending your time more wisely on a new avenue, a new hobby, a new project, finding a new job. It really doesn't have to be. It can be quitting an unhealthy habit like smoking. But whatever it is, don't cling to it anymore. Let it go. I think it's really going to allow you to tap into being more like the Queen of Cups. You've got her twice. I think you've got to listen to your intuition. And when you start really listening to your intuition, all the good will come through. The Knight of Cups, the Two of Cups, the Page of Pentacles, the Ten of Pentacles. There's a better choice for you, and that is the new chapter in your story, a better choice compared to what you've been through before. So express your gratitude for what's been, express your gratitude for what's coming, and move on. And I think ultimately that's the story of being content with what's gone, but not clinging to the things that don't serve you anymore, and progressing through life. So that's your reading, those of you that chose number 1. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave me a comment, like, subscribe, all the rest of it. If you want a private reading, there are some slots available, so please go ahead. Feel free to contact me at oaktreetarotreader@gmail.com, or the information is in the description box. Otherwise, you take very good care of yourself. Thank you for listening to me, and goodbye. Okay, those of you that chose number 2, the Chariot, the Snow Queen, this is your reading. This card is one of my favourite decks, but I don't use it that often because I don't want the edges to get ruined. When you shuffle cards a lot, they, trying to think of the word, they just get wrecked. They get bent and chipped and stuff. And I don't want it to happen to this deck because I really like them. It is, in fact, the Fairy Tale Tarot by Karen Mahoney, in case you're interested. And so you got the Chariot, the Snow Queen, and what I'm going to do is do the reading, and then we'll see how the story behind this connects to your reading. Let's start off. We've got the Moon. Powerful, intuitive epiphanies, letting go of worry and fear, understanding the truth of a situation. Five of Autumn, reach out to others for assistance, poor timing for a career change, and feeling challenged by money issues. The Emperor. Use logic and structure to increase your success. Get organised. A firm but compassionate leader. Then we've got the Four of Swords, the Two of Cups, and the Six of Wands, the Ten of Wands, the Wheel of Fortune, and the Seven of Pentacles. I'm just checking to see you can see everything. So what's the next chapter in your story? Let's address that one first, because that's the only one where I really look at and think, because that's the Five of Pentacles, which is that feeling of being in need of charity, of being excluded, being out in the cold, and being in want. So you might find that you are challenged by money issues, or you might need to ask for help on certain things. That doesn't mean that you're going to be homeless. Please don't think that. And it doesn't mean necessarily that it's financial. It could be an emotional sort of a bit of coldness and isolation. But I think that comes across to me as being a bit of a temporary measure. So even if, a lot of great stories start with the person being in poverty, and then they come good. So just look at it that way, that this is just the starting point. The ending point is going to be you reaping some sort of rewards. So I think what you're going to be doing is seeing the truth of a situation. Maybe this is the truth of a financial situation that you've got yourself in or you've been dumped into through no fault of your own. But you're there and you look at it and you think, okay, this is where I am. I have to accept the truth. I can't run away from it. And I think by accepting it, it releases you from the fear and the worry over it. It's like you're building it up so much in your own head that you can't see straight, and then you just decide, I'm not going to live like that anymore. And I think the moment you do that, you can start to really address the problem. And there's logic and structure to increase your success. I think you're going to apply your mind to it. You're going to take charge of the situation, whatever it is, in order to deal with whatever problems are associated with it. And through that, it's going to take you some time. I don't think it's going to be immediate. I think you're going to have to retreat inside yourself and say, okay, what's step one, step two? What will, what can I do there? What can I do in that area? And I think you will come in union with someone. It could be a love union. It could be just a meeting of minds. It could be a new partner in business, or it could be a new boss that you really get on well with. And it will bring you success. So whatever problem is going on in your life that's really leaving you emotionally and possibly financially in trouble, you're going to sort it out. And it's through meeting the right person for you to be successful on whatever area of your life. And I think the problem's just going to be dealt with. I just get this feeling that whatever problem you've got, and it's through your own hard work and your own application of your skills and talents and willpower, you will sort out the problem, no matter how big or how small. And you will turn your luck around, you'll transform, things will be made different. So instead of being in want, you will be able to reap the rewards of your own hard work. So if you've been really working hard towards something that's really not been paying its way, maybe it's costing you money rather than earning you money. I think you're going to apply yourself to the problem of why it's not working and manage to turn it around. Maybe because you partner up with someone else. And that's the next chapter. It's you building up success. You not being defeated. I think you're going to come into your own power and authority. And I think whatever's gone on, you're not going to settle for failure. So even if you've had a bit of a rough time and you've been a bit down in the dumps about it, don't feel too bad. You're coming out of that. And you're actually entering a phase where you're going to be proactive, active and successful. And because you're working towards it, your look's really going to change. So, the Snow Queen, the Chariot. I'm going to read the story from the book. And then we'll discuss how I think it applies to your reading. I mean, I've got a good idea anyway. Sorry, I just had a little sip there before I started reading. Okay, The Snow Queen by Hans Andersen. Is this a bit of a long one? It is a bit of a long one. A wicked sprite once invented a mirror that distorted all the beauty of the world and made it seem ugly. One day the mirror broke into billions of tiny fragments. Bits of glass flew about the world and landed in people's eyes and hearts, making them see only the evil, perverted sides of life. In a large town lived a boy and a girl named Kay and Gerda, who were best friends and played together happily every day. But when they were in the garden one spring, a piece of the cursed glass landed in Kay's heart and another in his eye. He was instantly changed and found everything around him ugly, even Gerda. That winter, as Kay was outside sledging in the snow, a mysterious sleigh rode by. Thinking that it would be fun to be pulled along, Kay latched his sledge onto this bigger sleigh, and the sleigh moved away from the town. But every time he thought to untie his little sled, the person driving the sleigh turned and smiled at him, and somehow he could do nothing. Finally, the sleigh stopped, and the driver stood up and revealed herself to be the Snow Queen. Somehow Kay was no longer afraid, and by night they travelled through the skies, and by day the boy slept by the feet of the Snow Queen, having forgotten all about Gerda and his own family. Spring came, and Gerda decided to ask the river about her long-lost friend. But by accident, the river took her away in a boat, and she drifted until she came to the house of a kind old woman who knew magic. She had always wanted a little girl like Gerda, and so she tried to keep Gerda by gentle spells and by showing her the flowers in her garden, which spoke to her and told her tales. But as spring seemed to go on forever, she was suddenly reminded of the purpose of her journey, to find Kay. When she set out again, she saw that outside the woman's garden it had already become autumn. The first time she rested, up hopped a crow, and Gerda told it her story. The crow said that it suspected that Kay might in fact have become the new prince of the region. He took her to the palace where she met the princess and her new prince, who was not Kay, it turned out. Nevertheless, the kind prince and princess gave her a horse and carriage with which to continue her journey. But next she was accosted by a gang of robbers. They threatened to eat her. However, fortunately, the youngest robber girl took a liking to Gerda and helped her to escape on a reindeer. Before she left, the robber girl's pigeons told Gerda that they saw Kay with the Snow Queen, so she and the reindeer went towards Lapland, where the Snow Queen had her palace. Gerda first met a Lapp woman, then a Finnish woman, and both directed her to the Snow Queen's palace. Finally, she arrived there, exhausted and frozen. Kay was sitting inside the palace, sitting in the throne room, blue with cold. His heart had nearly turned to ice. He didn't notice Gerda's arrival, as all he wanted to do was solve a puzzle that the Queen had left for him. The goal was to spell the word eternity with pieces of ice, and the Snow Queen had promised him the entire world and a new pair of skates if he did so. But somehow Kay was unable to complete the word, try as he might. Watching the obsessed and frozen boy, Gerda began to cry. Her tears fell on Kay and melted the ice in his heart. He burst into tears and the piece of glass in his eye washed out. The glass and the ice pieces fell together on the floor and at last formed the word eternity. Seeing this, Kay and Gerda fled together from the dreadful palace, again helped by the kind reindeer. On the way back home, they met again the friends that Gerda had made on the journey and heard how things had changed while they'd been away. Finally, they reached their hometown in the full warmth of summertime, and looking at each other in the sunshine, Gerda and Kay realised that they were no longer children, but had grown into adults. So, what's the motive, the purpose of the story here in regards to the chariot? Which is that Gerda did not give up on Kay. Gerda did not let anything stop her from reaching her destination, no matter how long it took her, no matter how many diversions and interruptions on her journey to find her friend. She kept up and continued until finally, just before it was too late, she met him and she found him again. So it's about triumph in conflict, being in control and having absolute focus. And I think that's what the next chapter of your story is, that you've got a journey ahead of you that you must remain focused on. And I think that you will. And that's how you come to the point where you can reap the rewards of all your hard work. It's, planted your crop, tended your crop, made sure it's protected from the insects and so forth that would absolutely devour the leaves that you have worked so hard to cultivate, until the point where it's coming to autumn that you can then harvest your pentacles and have the rewards. And that's what Gerda did. She had the rewards of Kay. She got her friend back and Kay was saved. And there are moments where Gerda was out in the cold, where she didn't have what she needed, but there was always somebody there to help her and to reach her ultimate destination. And I feel that's where the story comes for you, in that you must keep focused, you must remain determined and to stay on course and to not allow yourself to be diverted from what you ultimately want, whether this is a spiritual journey or a journey of love or a journey in your career or to do with your finances or a mixture of all of them. If this is just an overall journey of you trying to reach your ultimate destination, because you can do it. You're meant to move forward and have a change of good fortune. You're meant to change things about and to let go of the burdens that I feel currently are carrying. So that's your reading, those of you number 2. Remember how Gerda did not stop. She stayed on the course. And you will too, and you will achieve another chapter after this one. So thank you for listening to me. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comments section what you thought about it, how it resonated and so on. But just make sure you take very good care of yourself, and goodbye. Okay, those of you that chose number 3, the moon. This is your reading. What is the next chapter in your story? So this deck is one of my favourites, but I don't use it very often because I don't want the cards to get too rough and well used because I love them so much. And it's the Fairy Tale Tarot by Karen Mahoney. The Nixie is the story. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do a reading on the cards that I've shuffled here for you, and then at the end I will read you the story from the book associated with this, and we'll see how the story connects overall to your reading. Let's put that up there out of the way. So we start off with 8 of Winter. You have what it takes if only you believe in yourself. Thinking that you're powerless when you're not. A lack of self-confidence that keeps you from getting what you want. 3 of Autumn. Follow your passion when it comes to your career. Be the best at what you do. Being compensated for your creative talents. Princess of Summer. Gentle, sensitive, kind, inexperienced. A new relationship or emotional experience. Invitations to social events. A compassionate friend you can share your concerns with. We've got the 4 of Cups. We've got the 10 of Pentacles. Knight of Swords. Ace of Swords. 2 of Swords. 10 of Swords. Whoa. This is intriguing. I'm not sure how that card will relate to this, but we shall see. So what's the next chapter for you? I think you're in a moment, at the moment, you're in a phase, probably why you were attracted to the title of the video if you aren't somebody that already subscribes or regularly watches my pick of cards, is you don't know what's going to be happening next. I think you're confused about what your next step is, you know, the next chapter in your story. What do you do? And I think what's ahead for you generally is the answer to that. I think you're going to come to a conclusion about what you're going to do next and what you're going to finish off. Because I think you do need to let something go, and I think you will come to the decision what that is. That's quite simply explained here by the Ace of Swords, the 2 of Swords and the 10, is that you're going to get a new idea, you're going to make a decision about the old versus the new, and you will let something go. You will literally let something die off. So you might decide to change your job. You might decide that there's something that's going on in your life that's really bad for you and it's time to let it go and move on without it there, and then new stuff can come through. So you can't cling to everything you've got and expect more to come in. It is really time to have a bit of a declutter spiritually in your life. I think some of you are going to instinctively know what that is, but the rest of you, don't feel anxious about it at all, please. You are going to come and understand what to do. I think for some of you, you do have a passion when it comes to your career. There's something you've always wanted to do. Maybe it's to get promoted. Maybe it's to do a completely different career. Maybe it's to take on qualifications to do a career that you've never done before. You know, sort of like, oh, I can't do that. That's not down for me. But it is. And for the rest of you, maybe there's something creative you do. Maybe you're an artist on the side. Maybe you do a bit of music on the side. You can be the best, you know, or your best. You've not reached your pinnacle of power in regards to this. So explore it. And you're going to be given the opportunity to do that in this new chapter in your life, what's coming ahead for you. And I think it's not so much a new relationship. I think it's a new emotional experience connected to this. It's almost, I want to say that for some of you, you're so confused about what to do that you just indulge yourself in what makes you happy. So if you love writing or painting or drawing or something that is expressive of your own personal vision, in that sense, in that creativity, it doesn't have to actually be anything artistic. Maybe you're a great chef, great cook. You're going to indulge in that. Really improve that craft, maybe working with others to do it, and it's going to bring you a brand new emotional experience. I think it's probably going to build you up in confidence, and I think because you're built up with confidence, because you've got something to offer, it's going to make you more attractive to people socially. Because I feel the invitation to social events might be in connection to this. Like, say you are good at music, people will say, well, why don't you come to the party and do a song? If that's amenable to you. But that kind of thing, because you're developing your skills. And I think it's done out of a feeling that you love this and it brings you happiness. And you might as well do this in place of what you're not sure what to do next. Which is a good use of time. If you're not sure what to do next, there's no clear path in front of you, you might as well do the things that bring you happiness to get you in the right frame of mind for the future so that you are open for new opportunities. Because you're not powerless. I think a lot of you do really think that you're without choice, without power, but that's wrong. You do have choices, you do have power. Maybe the choices you have in front of you are ones you don't want to take, but that doesn't mean there aren't other ones. The issue is that you can't see them at the moment, so you need to get yourself into a positive frame of mind, and doing something that you love and that you are really good at is a way forward. Don't put yourself down. There are plenty of people in the world that are happy to put you down. Don't you help them. You're going to have a time of reflection where you're pondering on choices, pondering on options. As I say, you might not completely be happy with them. But I think this is time out for you to really think about things and emotionally process them as well, digest things that are going on in your life. And I do honestly believe that you'll either find out that you're much more wealthy than you thought you were. Literally, you might have a bit more money in your bank account than you initially thought. Or you find a way to find the prosperity, the Ten of Pentacles moment. That's the being a wealthy family and being able to provide for your future, you know, having enough money to put aside. And you're going to move forward, I think, with this epiphany. I think you're going to move forward with your thinking. I think it's going to spur you. So you're going from slow pondering to quick thinking. And the incentive is this happily ever after for your family in terms of being well provided for. You know, doesn't mean being super rich, I'm afraid. For the majority of that's likely to be true. You're not going to be super rich. What you are going to be is able to have a happy family life with no concerns about how you're going to buy food and pay your electricity bill. When you move forward, I think with this sudden, I think it's like this explosion of mental energy. You're really going to be able to think quickly and react quickly mentally to the changes you're inspiring in yourself, or if there are changes around you. I feel this is more your internal journey of you suddenly get an idea, like a eureka moment. You suddenly have a brand new idea, a new path to take. You're like, oh, I can do this. And you're going to make the decision, as I say, to end something. You're going to make the decision that this is done. And if you get rid of this thing, you can make the most of the opportunities that are also available for you in this new chapter in your story. I really do feel that you're coming to the point where you can write off something. It's dead in the water, if I'm going to be honest. It's finished. It's just not going to happen. And it's possibly been on life support for quite some time. And because there's this other thing going on that makes you feel good about yourself and that makes you feel that there's something there to do, that there's something there for you to achieve, you can happily let this go. It's like you're clinging to it because you haven't got anything else to spend your time doing. Or it satisfies an emotional need in you that this new creativity, this new opportunities will fulfill in you. So you'll be like, no, I haven't got time for that anymore. So let's see whether I'm right or I'm wrong, see what else I can give for you by reading. I'm going to read out from the book about this story. I'm just going to have a sip of water because it might be a page or two. Sorry if you heard a big gulp in your headphones then. Pages are stuck together, yeah. So The Moon, the Water Nixie. This is by Andrew Lang and it's from the Yellow Fairy book, A German Tale. There was once a miller who was wealthy and content, but sorrow comes in the night, and suddenly the miller lost everything and was close to ruin. Wandering unhappily along the banks of the mill pond, he saw a pale woman rising out of the water. He realised that she was the Nixie of the mill pond, and so was about to flee when she called his name in a friendly way. He told her of his woes, and she promised to make him rich again. All he had to give her in return was the youngest thing in his house. The miller walked home optimistically, thinking of the new puppies and kittens that had just been born. He was horrified, however, to be stopped at the door of his house and told that his wife had just given birth to a baby boy. The miller told his wife of the bargain, but no one could think what to do apart from making sure that the boy never went near the mill pond. For a while this worked well. The boy grew into a young man and became a great hunter, while the miller himself did grow rich as promised. Eventually the young man married well to a beautiful young woman, and they were happy. But one day the young hunter shot a hare, and after skinning it, realised that he was near the mill, and forgetting that he had been told never to go near the place, he went to wash his hands in the water. Immediately the Nixie rose up and grasped him in her white, wet arms and dragged him deep down into the pool. And when the hunter did not come home, his beautiful wife went looking for him. She found his bag by the mill pond and guessed what had happened. Distraught, she wandered about crying his name, and finally she fell asleep and dreamt she came back into a hut in which was a witch, who told her she knew how to get the man back. The next day the wife set out to find the witch, and after days she succeeded, and the witch gave her this advice. She was to go to the pond in the full moon and comb her black hair with a golden comb, and then leave the comb on the bank. She did this, and soon heard the rushing sound of a wave that came and claimed the comb. Then she saw the head of her husband rise slowly from the water, only to sink back down. The wife went back to the witch, and this time was told to go to the pond in the full moon and play a golden flute, and again to leave the flute on the bank. The same thing happened. The water took the flute, but this time the husband was able to rise halfway out of the pond. However, after a few moments, he was pulled back down. The third time the wife went to the witch. Now she was told to sit on the bank spinning on a golden spinning wheel, which as usual had to be left as an offering. This time, finally, her husband managed to get right out of the waters and fling himself into her arms. But immediately a wave rose up and threatened to drag them both under. The frightened woman screamed to the witch for help, and she and her husband were both saved. However, each then found themselves in a strange country, separated. Both took work herding sheep, and some time passed in this way. Finally, the shepherd happened to go to the country where the shepherdess, his wife, lived. The two met, but as they were still under an enchantment, they couldn't recognise each other. One evening, when the moon was full again, they sat together and the shepherd began playing on his flute. The shepherdess remembered how she had played the gold flute by the mill pond, and she burst into tears and told her friend the story. The scales fell from their eyes and they recognised each other. Happy to be together, they returned home. There they still are, and you may visit them if you will. So this is strange in respect to the reading because you're at a process of pursuing something new and abandoning something else. But this is a story really about not letting go. So I think the best parallel I can take from this is your imagination. The moon has always been a card about your subconscious and your imagination. And your imagination absolutely is a product of your subconscious, mixed in with a bit of consciousness, of course. But when you're being really creative, you dig deep inside your own subconscious in order to drag out what's found there. And truly unique creativity does have the subconscious about it. And I think it is about using your imagination and being a visionary. And I'm drawn again to the fact that the wife used the comb to comb her hair. So it's reflecting on beauty. So it could be something to do with, I've just realised she's spinning there. So it could be something to do with using your appearance, but it could also, I do feel it's about your creativity, like the flute, about something that's artistic of yours. And it is when she plays the gold flute by the mill pond that they recognise each other. So I think you can be recognised through your own creativity. And I think that's the key to the next chapter in your story, is that you are meant to create something that will allow you a way in to a new beginning. And when you have that new beginning, and I feel it's sort of going to allow you to be recognised. It's like this invitation to social events, to me, is a way for you to express this creativity. And that is possibly something that you're thinking on and that could offer you financial wealth. And it's going to lead you to be able to let go. And once you let go of this thing, the rest will follow. Because ultimately, the Nixie had to let go of the handsome husband that she'd been promised when he was born. Whether she liked it or not, she had to let go. And I think some of you are clinging a bit to something that's not going to help you. Let's see what the rest of it says on here. Yeah, it's sort of a story, it says, about not allowing yourself to be pulled down to the deep end of your own fantasies. So have that as a warning to not fall too deep into dreaming. You've got to keep yourself a bit on the straight and narrow. Yeah, it's to do with your own creativity. I don't think the rest of the story really resonates with you. It's to do with the dark imagination that we all have inside ourselves, where our dreams come from. And you're meant to pursue that. And I think that's the message of the next cycle in your life, of the next chapter in your story, I must keep saying, is that you are meant to use your imagination in some way that you're not at the moment. And so a friend is going to be proving beneficial to that. They may be fighting your corner without you realising it. They may be promoting you without you realising it. Because I think some of you are going to be able to earn money from your own creativity, whatever it may be. And who doesn't want that? Isn't that living the fantasy for a lot of people? So keep your feet on the ground, but still dream. So that's the next chapter in your story. You must let me know how it resonates with you. Leave me a comment. I really do hope you've enjoyed the reading. And thank you very much for listening to me. Please take very good care of yourself, and goodbye.